So I also was curious about your pre-production process, because you mentioned last time that so you communicate with some departments, and could you like go kind of step by step, how do you start, like from the moment you join to maybe like the last night before the shoot begins? How is it, what's the process?
Okay, so I'm in pre-production for 2 features now, and they are very different. And okay, so it's usually one of 2 people that contact me. It's either the producer or somebody from the production team, line producer, production manager, or the director, depending on who recommended me or how they know about me. If I have a first chat with a producer, then it's obviously coming from more of a production perspective, like how many days we're shooting, where are the locations. Those are the first questions that we talk about. The rate, shooting dates, that kind of business. When I speak to directors first, the first conversation is usually around the look, the feel, the script, characters. And from the original initial conversations, we see what's missing. So quite often I'm brought on at a point in a script when somebody has already scheduled it or attempted a schedule. Because scheduling is one of the first things that useful to have when you're applying for funding, when you're approaching investors and saying that this is what we're looking at. This is, it's a 90 pages script. It will need 4 weeks of shooting. If we break down 4 weeks, just feeding people and getting camera and lights on set and getting people from their house to the location, this is how much it's going to cost. We're not drinking it away. We're actually spending it on useful things. So usually someone does a preliminary schedule. Sometimes it's the director themselves or the producers. And so sometimes I come on board when there's absolutely nothing in place, but usually there is like a rough breakdown of how they want to shoot it. Then from that breakdown, I gather a bunch of information. I gather all sorts of limitations. Do we have actors' availability issues? Do we have any clashes? Do we have any child actors for child hours when they are only allowed to work a certain number of hours a day? Do we have any location issues? Do we have a hard out time? Do we have a specific time when we have to arrive to a location, when we have to leave the location by? Do we have any considerations based on if it's I might be able to talk about 2 very different schedules. So one of my features is all a studio, and it's super easy, shooting probably 3 cameras at the same time, but it's self-contained. It's 3 actors and a bunch of 2-3 extras, and it's a very different way of thinking about schedule and thinking about efficiency. While as if on the other shoot we have something like 7, 8, 9, how many locations within 3 weeks. And they're all ridiculously far from each other and quite far out from London. Well planned, guys. So when it comes to more of a location-based shoot, I also factor in, the schedule is usually dictated by locations. So based on the permits or based on the agreements or based on the location owners and their special requests. But I do have to factor in traveling time. I do have to factor in an 11-hour turnaround between days. So if I call camera rep at, say, 10 p.m., I know that camera crew and lighting crew will actually not rep out of the location until about an hour, sometimes even an hour and a half later, based on how big the setup is. So even though I said rep at 10 o'clock, they are going to get into their cars at 11 or on the bus or whatever. And then they have to go home. Then they have to sleep. And then all of that should fit into a minimum of 11 hours by law. And if I'm kind enough, I give them even more than that. So on the location shoot that we have, I had to shorten a couple of days because, you know, we're 2 hours away from London. I have to calculate with that people need to sleep and people need to get home to sleep. So when it's more of a studio-based shoot, I usually have more flexibility to go more in, well, in this case, we are going almost in story order, or going more of the order of what serves storytelling and character. While as if it's more of a location-based shoot, I sometimes do have to sacrifice. Like sometimes we have continuity issues or like interesting continuity challenges. Like we had a shoot when we had to have a printed picture of a character whose the whole film was centered around this character who died, and we had to print out like flyers of the funeral, and we had to have printed pictures of this character with the other actors. So it wasn't just like we're going to fetch something from Facebook and Photoshop it. I don't know what we ended up doing. I think we just called him in for a day. But it was with the other characters as well, with the other actors as well. And the actor who was playing that guy was coming in towards the end of the shoot, and we needed to shoot his pictures in shot towards the beginning of the shoot. So there are considerations like that, like a little jigsaw puzzle, that what do we need for the days to happen? And then so I come up with an original schedule. And the people look at it and like, yeah, no. So we fine tune it until we find something that works for all of us in terms of logistical issues, creative challenges and requests. We always want more time. We always need more time than what we have. When a shot list is ready or half ready, in the case of a feature film, it's like people do try their best to get a shot list as extensively as possible, as early as possible. But it's not feasible. We all have lives. We all work on other projects as well. So sometimes 2-3 weeks away from the shoot, we still don't have a logged shot list, while a schedule is necessary because other departments are relying on it. Our department is heavily relying on schedules. So sometimes I work from our collective imagination, that what will be shot or what is achievable, or I simply just break down the day that this is how many setups or this is how many scenes do we have to achieve, and then just say that this is how math works, you're going to have this much time, it doesn't matter how many shots you're planning. But sometimes I do get a shot list, and then we creatively find the time, how time do we need for each setups or each sequences or each scenes, which does come with experience. I think I said this before, that 80s kind of develop this sense of time in their bodies, how long certain things are going to take. And some people shoot faster. Some DPs shoot incredibly fast. They light incredibly fast, while others like to take their time. Bless your heart. I worked with a DP who I love him to bits. I loved him so much, it was ridiculous. But he did like to take his time, and he did like to faff around with clouds and shades and gradients in the background. So some DPs do take their time to achieve something creative, while others may be coming from a very run and gun background, when they literally just grab a camera and shoot pretty much handheld documentary style. So it really depends on how stylized the shoot is and how the shot list looks like to be able to allocate time. And then once we have a roughly logged schedule and we all agree on it, and we all embrace that once we go on set, it will usually change and we'll usually have to just make things up on the fly. That's fine. Then I go into more of a production-based job. On features, I luckily do have a second. If there is no budget for a second, if they have not thought about bringing on a second, I usually train up someone to be a second, because it is a complete different job from what I do. said this before. So the circle of the first AD is usually around camera, a very tight circle within, like, our department is usually very close to me, and director and creatives. If it's a commercial shoot, then it's usually agency and clients as well. The third AD is dealing with the outer circle, the outer perimeter of the set. So assistants, they do deal with sound to mic people up, more glam is coming from commercials and narrative. People don't like being called glam. Makeup and costume. So it's the departments that are like one step removed from camera. That's the responsibility for the third AD. So the first and the third are on the floor, while the second is usually either back at base, or they do come down on set, but they do deal with more cast-based issues. So they make sure that people are ready in the morning. And so in prep as well, that's what they are prepping for. They're prepping the next day. They're prepping the call sheet. They're prepping an entire shoot, how it's going to look like, that we do have a base at every place that is quite close to location, that we have, if there are any background artists that are coming in on the day, then sometimes it's the second. Sometimes if we have more crowd, they do delegate a specific crowd, third crowd, second, who's booking the crowd. But usually it's the second AD/production's job to actually make sure that the extras arrive and they confirm and they know where they're going, and they know the clothing requirements and things like that. So even in pre-production, I don't do call sheets anymore on very, very small projects when I'm literally the only AD and there is not a runner that I can train up to do the call sheets. I still do it. I don't like doing it by now, but because I don't learn anything from it. It's like if somebody has never seen a call sheet before and they just want to learn, I'm like, okay, this is how it looks like, copy paste. And they do get more out of it than me spending 2 hours with copy pasting. So even in prep, like right now for this upcoming feature, I'm just about to have a call with my second AD, never worked with her. And we're just gonna go through everything that she needs from me, anything that I can see that I will need from her on the day, and just have a chat about how we like to work together. The one thing that I forgot before the schedule gets logged is we go on recce's. The Americans call it recon, and we call it recce because it's coming from reconnaissance or something like that. And I know that everyone outside of the UK is just like, recce? What is that? But it's the tech scout. It's the location scout. Scout is the stage of finding a location and securing a location when you're not sure about it. That's what scouting is, but sometimes the two things align. And recce is when you actually have secured a location and you just go down there and figure out what are the location challenges, what are the best ways of shooting, where the sun is coming from, how the room looks like, how, what kind of furniture is coming in. So you technically size up a location based on what you need, what you want, and what the location's limitations are. So we go on recce's, and based on the recce, usually the shot list changes. Sometimes the script even changes because you find something that changes the blocking, or you find that a specific scene is just not going to work with what we have, and then we rework things. And yeah, so everything is locked in a sense that we have a very good idea of what we want to do, what we want to achieve. And then I just keep communicating with department heads based on how heavy their jobs are. So say on jobs where we have SFX makeup, I would have conversations with the head of makeup or the head of SFX makeup, if it's separate, to size up that how much time do they need every day? How long does it take to get into makeup, get out of makeup, change if there are any changes? If something happens on camera, like if extra blood comes in or a wound comes in, how long does it take to reset something? And that kind of happens with every department. So if there's anything big, anything breaks, anything lights on fire, anything gets flooded, anything, anybody gets shot, anything like that, I do speak to the respective departments, whether that's stunts or our department, or I don't know, even lighting, if we have dynamic lighting somewhere, to see how quick that change is, how easy it is to reset, to be able to say that, okay, we have 2 takes of this, and that's going to take 20 minutes because it's a 10-minute, 15-minute reset between a take. And once I had all those chats, and once we have a schedule that we all agree on, it's pretty much just getting the call sheets ready. I like to prep just a template call sheet because it does have separate sections. So there's a section that I deal with every day that I usually don't give it out to other people. I usually don't give it to my second to do it. I do it on day. It's the timings section that they fill out everything. They fill out the top part of how the sun is setting that day and what are the call times and when are we having lunch. And they fill out the schedule section based on my previous schedule. But then the timings is something that I usually do. So when we have more than one actors coming in and they're coming in staggered throughout the day, or 6 of them are coming in at the same time and have to be ready at the same time, there is a section where it says that they should arrive at a time, or they should be picked up at a time if they are being driven. They should arrive at a time, and then they should go into costume and makeup at a certain time, and they should arrive on set at a certain time. Those are the timings that I usually do. Sometimes seconds do get a very good idea of how it's going to look, but those are the things that I can get a bit creative with. Some people, like I worked with theater actors last year who were just like, I come in 15 minutes before I have to get ready and I'm okay. And they were, they got used to it, that they get ready in 10 minutes and they don't fuss about it. While some people like to get their coffee in the morning, they like to have a little chat. So sometimes I know that I do need to call them a little bit early just to give time for those niceties. And I think that's pretty much leading us up to the shooting day. So I do like to prep maybe a week's worth of call sheets, just so that we're not literally doing it day by day, but some people like to do it day by day. And then all I have to do on the day is sometime during the day when my second goes, do you have a minute for the call sheet? And I just fill out the timings. And it's all my systems are online. I usually Google Docs and like Google Drive to share with anyone. So all my templates, even when a second doesn't have a call sheet template, I just send them my template. And so we share, and it's all online and we can all access it from home. And there are no issues with sending links and files and folders and everything. That's about it, I think.